Welcome to Mentoring37, the video podcast brought to you by the international mentoring community. And on the call today, you have Dr. Stephen Hobbs, who's the Director of Certification, and Doug Lawrence, who's the Director of Education. And we're bringing the show to you. It's about 37 minutes in length. We bring 3 major ideas and 7 points per idea. So that's the format of the show. But as always, we start the show by reading what definition of mentoring we use so that we can have some common ground as we go through the program. So, Doug, do you want to just share what our definition is? And then we're going to highlight a little phrase. As I have a little bit of fun, I said we're going to tickle out a little bit of words out of that definition. So go for it, Doug.
Okay, thank you, and hello everyone. So the definition that we use to describe the mentoring process is that mentoring is about a two-way trusted arrangement in which the mentor and mentee can form a deeper and richer collaborative alliance, resulting in both learning and growing personally and professionally.
And so we want to tickle out, I think today is, can form a deeper and richer collaborative alliance. So what have you got to share with us about that part of it?
So I have to go back a little bit in time and take a look at my experience as a mentor and how I've grown over the course of time. And going from a knowledge-based mentoring process to one that is competency-based has resulted in, for me, a deeper, richer collaborative alliance with the people that I'm working with. And I think part of that is the understanding that when you take your mentoring skill sets to the next level, is that what ends up happening is that it does become a deeper, richer experience for yourself as the mentor. But what that also translates into is, in the mentoring arrangement, is that it has built or created that deeper, richer experience for the mentoring arrangement, but for both the mentor and the mentee.
Yeah, it's like tickling out that word alliance, I think, is important here, because we could talk about, yes, it's an arrangement, yes, there's relationship and that, but one of the things we want to get across is that because there's this mutual learning and development that takes place, there's a bit more of an alliance that gets set, like a strategic alliance, because there's value for the mentor and the mentee. And being collaborative is great, because collaborative means being assertive and being cooperative. Yeah. So I think that sort of gives us a bit of a sense of that one. So we'll be tickling out a little bit more of the definition the next time that we meet. I just wanted to also share with you that Mentoring37 is in support of the international mentoring community. And what we're attempting to do here is build up a community. So it's about co-creation. And that's an important word for us, is that we're going to co-create this story of mentoring together. And also what we're going to do is that we're going to use very much this collaborative conversations. If you remember what we just read to you, collaborative alliance, collaborative conversations about mentoring. Because you'll hear us use the word deeper, richer, because that's really what we're looking for, is that sometimes there's this whoosh, kind of real technical term of, conversation, whoosh through, when in fact, mentoring has so much to it. There's nuances and fine-tuning for it to be in the place of moving it from being a mentor to a great mentor to an extraordinary mentor. And that's what we're attempting to do with the show. So to set that up, one of the things that we always do is we take a look at one of the action outcomes that's associated with the profile, the Certificate of Competence Mentor Profile. And we do a random selection. And today, what we're doing is we're pulling out the one, discuss reliance of the mentee on the mentor. So discuss the reliance of the mentee on the mentor. And I'm just going to unfold a little bit. Then I'm going to ask Doug to chirp in about anything that he might want to say. And then I'm going to share with you 3 ways that you can really take a look at this this situation if you find yourself in it as a mentor. The idea here is to get across the sense, okay, that what's taking place is that there's this mentoring relationship, okay? And with the mentoring relationship, the mentee is entering into it with the mentor. Now, we always say the mentor sort of leads the arrangement, the mentee leads the relationship. And we say that because the mentee is needing to develop the relationship in such a way as to benefit in the way that feels comfortable for them, and the mentor will create the arrangement for that to happen. But what will sometimes take place is that the mentee will come to that, developing a relationship that may have this sense of dependence or codependence, or I'm going to lean into my mentor a little bit more. And if the mentor is not aware of this, then things will start to go a little bit sideways, because the mentee might say, can you help me with this decision? I'm not really sure if I know what's going on, or I'm sort of feeling a little lost in what's going on. I could really use a little bit, a deeper connection here to find out what's taking place. And when you start to hear that phrasing, it can start to slide towards the concept of counseling. All right. So if the person's looking for some reassurance, okay, granted, we're all looking for, hey, did you do a good job? But if it constantly keeps happening, then, pay attention to that. What's going on? And if the person sort of is being a little bit of negative talk, challenging their own self-concept, their own self-awareness, and you start to hear that in the conversation, then let that come to the surface and find out what's going on. But if the person starts to move into a place where their boundaries are starting to open up and be, well, I'm talking about this or I'm talking about that, and maybe all of a sudden the conversation goes into something that's so personal, you're going, as a mentor, this doesn't fit to where it is that we're going. If we keep going this way, I don't know if it's going to be helpful, so I'm going to just raise up and go, hang on a minute, what's going on, and pay attention to it. It's not that you're throwing the person away and say, well, I won't talk about anything that's personal. But your spidey senses will sort of go, oh, hang on a minute, this is starting to get to a place where I'm not sure that that's part of our arrangement. Even though you may want it from a relationship point of view, I may have to put something in place to deal with that. All right? That's sort of the nuance, because the reliance part is what the mentor is there for, is so that you can rely on tapping into the lived experience. That's part of what the mentoring is, strategic alliance or collaborative alliance. That's what it's about, okay? That's naturally what a mentor can do, right, to make it work. So with that, I know that you've got lots of stories and situations where you've come across this, Doug. Do you want to add a little bit to that? And then what I'd like to do is just return to what's some ways in which the mentor can avoid this in the relationship element that you share.
And part of it is, as a mentor, and that's where the whole deeper, richer experience comes into play. But it's fine-tuning or tweaking your listening and hearing skills, because the conversation will send those little red flags every so often that you'll go, just a minute, I think somebody is expecting more out of this relationship or arrangement than what really the intent is. And part of that is actually defining the expectations right at the very beginning. And so with the one person that I had, it became very obvious to me, and I ended up having to just push back. But number one, there was this huge dependency on making the decisions for them. They did not want to be accountable. And it was a whole lot easier just, you tell me what to do and I'll go and do it, right? So that was definitely not some place that I cared to go. And there was these sometimes subtle overtures about wanting the relationship to go further than a mentor-mentee relationship. And it was such that I needed to push back and then turn everything around in the context of a question to start to say, you know, we need to better clarify what it is that your expectations are, because I'm sensing that our expectations that we agreed to are starting to shift. And as a result of that, I was able to take back control of where we were going. Because if I had not have done that as a mentor, I would have lost control of the direction we needed to be going in.
Yeah, so really, it's really understanding the connection between the mentoring arrangement and the mentoring relationship. And who is leading which one of those? Because as the mentor, you have to stay more on top of it, stay on it, because the mentee will often slip into it and being able to know what's going on. So 3 things that I would share at this point in time is, and Doug has hinted at it here, is you've got to establish the boundaries right from the very beginning and clarify what it is that you're going to be doing. And if that means actually writing a contract, you can go so formal as to writing a contract. There are mentoring agreements that you can sign. There's different versions of those. We'll be making those available through IMC for you as well. We don't adhere to, this is the only one you can use. We're not like that, but we'll certainly put some out for you to take a look at. And one of the things to do is, as a mentor, in terms of establishing the boundaries, is be clear about when you're going to meet. It's a subtle point, but if you're the one who says, okay, we're going to meet on this day and meet on this day, not ask, well, when's the best time that you can meet, dear mentee? It would be more, okay, we're going to meet on this day and we're going to meet on this day, until you know you can get to the point that there isn't going to be some kind of reliance or something's going to bubble up, and you can then start to then move more into that collaborative piece. But at the very beginning, make sure that you take care of the dates and know why you're going to meet, all right, as the mentor. So that's one thing, all right? The second thing is, if you hear the negative language coming out, is help that person reframe it as soon as you can. If they start to talk down about themselves, you know, like I'm stupid, or I don't get it, or whatever, is get in there and help them reframe that language and find out what it is that's going on and do some flipping around. But again, be careful about not pushing into the world of counseling when you're doing that. So that, just remain vigilant to that. That's a really important part there. The third piece is make sure that the mentee knows, all right, how to ask questions. That's the best way to put it. Help the mentee learn how to ask a great question, if not an extraordinary question, because that will help them. By asking the question, they've got to frame up where they're coming from, what they want to tap into your experience. But by asking the question, it takes down the level of the feeling, because it places it more into a place of, okay, there's a little bit more logic here. Not to say be unfeeling in the arrangement. It's just, it gets you to think through this, all right, in a way that positions it so that it can go out into the shared space that you have in a way that doesn't give a feeling of, I'm going to rely on you for the answer in such ways that you're making my decision. You as a mentor is make sure that that mentee knows how to ask great questions so that you can answer those. Because if you let it get away on you again and they just start asking you questions all over the place, then you'll probably find yourself in a dependence, codependence kind of situation. So what of those 3 would you jump on and say yay or nay to, Doug?
Well, I think they're all important things. The big thing for me that I've learned from what I've gone through And it was interesting because I got a message this morning from somebody from another country wanting to be mentored. And when I read the message, the red flags went off. And I don't think they would have gone off as quickly had it not been for the experience that I had that I made reference to earlier. And so now I've pushed back and outlined what they can expect to get if we decide that we're going to work together, what they can actually expect to get from me as a mentor.
And it's so true. And I know the experiences that I've had over the years, like that, the first and third part, boundaries, contract, whatever you want to call it, help them ask great questions. And then it seems to flow from there for me. Okay.
Yeah.
It seems to flow. So one of the other things that we do on the show is that Doug goes out and looks for questions or comments that people are making about mentoring. And what we do is we bring them back and we form him into a question that was just a comment, or he goes out to places like Quora where people are asking questions. And he has one that he's going to share with us today. So what is that, Doug? And what was your response to that question?
So the question that was posed on Quora was, if you were to pay someone for business coaching and mentorship, what would you look for? And we could kind of split hairs on this question because it talks about two different things, coaching and mentoring, but I'll leave that one alone for now. My response was that I would want to make sure that there was some form of chemistry between the two of us, no matter what. So if we can't make a connection, it's probably not going to work. I would want them to be comfortable with addressing personal and professional growth. That's always a challenge, is to get people to feel comfortable talking about personal growth. So when I make reference to that, I talk about self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-doubt. Those are three things that typically will plague an individual, and if it plagues that individual, it will impact the mentoring relationship. Excuse me, there are some business mentors that actually are not comfortable with personal growth challenges, so dealing with the personal growth. So when you look at corporate mentorship programs, a lot of times they don't address the personal growth side of mentoring. I have good examples of where the relationship went sour because they were not able to build a trusting relationship and unable to connect with the soft skills. Ideally, I would be looking for my mentor to have had some form of training. And I typically will say to people in general conversations, if that's a 2-hour workshop, if that's going through a more formal program that, results in a certification, just whatever, no matter what you do, get some sort of training, and then you'll see the benefit of that, and you'll want to continue to build on that learning process as a mentor. I was recently certified competent as a mentor, and I see the value in that for me and how I mentor, and it has also had an impact on my mentees, and a very positive impact. So there's a lot of variables that can come into play when selecting a mentor based on your criteria. These are just some that I get most prospective mentees to consider before entering into an agreement for mentoring service.
Yeah, well, we're going to pick up on that coaching, mentoring storyline in one of the shows coming up. That's a given. But you made some great points there, so thank you for that. And there's always variables about selecting someone to assist you. Chemistry, obviously, is one of them. We get that. But sometimes, and we don't speak about it very often, but I did reference it earlier in the reliance story, is the spidey, those little tingles. You go, something's going on here. Pay attention. You got to pay attention to those, right? And that's really an important element of it. So thanks for that, Doug. Appreciate that. Okay. So the third part of our show is updates, and we are always picking up on things that are going on out in the world. Remember, this is all about mentoring and about mentoring for the world. And so there's some things that are going on inside IMC, and there's some things that are going on around us, and we're just going to pick up on a few of those and just little snippets here and just share those with you. And we talk about the certificate of competence mentor. There is a certificate of achievement, mentoring, which is more about the knowledge base. So if you just want to take a course and then go through and get your certificate of achievement just about mentoring and just learning about it, we have that available to you. Right? The self-assessment portal is open for those who do want to go through and start with certificate of competence and for their mentors. So that is made available, and there will be an actual link. You should see it on the screen right now. And if you're listening to it, if not, it will be in the show notes for those who request it. And or you can always go to Wealth Movement, WELLTH movement.com /mentor-skills. And you'll be able to find the information about IMC there and go to the certification tab and take it from there. So now, is there any events coming up that you know of from within IMC from your perspective you want to share?
The only thing, I stumbled across it this morning, and just because a large part of my clientele are female, is on the 8th, it's International Women's Day. So a huge shout out to all of those folks that reach out for mentors and, strive to continue their growth, and obviously secure that seat at the corporate table as a woman in the workforce.
Yeah, and I would pick up on that is that there's been a lot of references to what's called Mentoring Monday through BizWoman. And every once in a while, I see another announcement, especially around that Monday time, Sunday, Monday time. So, because I get Google alerts to the word mentoring, and that's why it comes out. So I draw your attention to that to echo what Doug has just mentioned here. Something else I would bring to your attention, especially from the IMC out into the world and being for the world, mentoring for the world. There's this myth that's jumping around, this notion of the myth of age. A mentor always has to be older than the mentee. Whoa, we've got to deal with that one. But they're using a term called reverse mentoring. Oh, we got to deal with that one too, right? So I'm going to tackle the little piece around the age, and then I know Doug loves to talk about the use of the word reverse mentoring, so I'll give that over to him. The aspect of the age, it's really not about age. That's why in our definition you don't see age. What you see is the lived experience, or the reference to, or we talk about lived experience, because if you have lived experience and you're willing to mentor someone, that's great. So there is the notion of younger people mentoring older people for different topics. The classic one is the social media, but that doesn't always apply anymore. It might be about how to actually work with younger employees, right? There may be something that they know from a psychology, neurosciences point of view that an older person doesn't know, and you can get together. So mentoring is really about tapping into the lived experience. It's not about age. So this notion of myth of age, let that go, folks. It's really about tapping into the lived experience that you have and your willingness then to mentor. But a lot of mentoring in the workplace programs will use the term reverse mentoring. Doug, give it to us. Come on. You want to share something about that one.
So I encourage you to pick up a dictionary and go to the word reverse, and the definition is going backwards. Now, please tell me that you do not want to be in a mentoring arrangement or mentoring relationship going backwards, because I sure don't want to be there. So, and part of it is the aspect of, I think a lot of people are still hung up in the old philosophy of mentoring, which was the traditional, the gray-haired old sage on the mountain passing on their wisdom to the younger person and that. But you've heard us say over and over again that mentoring is a two-way trusted arrangement, where, dealing with a deeper and richer collaborative alliance resulting in both the mentor and the mentee learning personally and professionally. That's not reverse. That's not going backwards. So as of today, folks, throw the reverse mentoring out with the bathwater and focus on calling it effective mentoring, because that's what it is.
Very good. So You feel better for a Tuesday with that one, Doug?
That was a huge release for me.
There you go. There you go. Well, the other thing that we're going to start bringing to you is some information about connecting mentoring and technology. And so, Doug, you want to share something? You've got a bit of information to start with. Now, what we hope to do, right, is bring some people on or a person on to talk about this. So it's not just the two of us, someone who's actually in that world of technology, software or apps, or whatever it might be. But we've just got a basic introduction right now. Doug, you want to share that?
So I have been having conversations with a colleague of mine by the name of Sean Mintz, and Sean is the CEO of a software solution called Mentor37. And so I've had some understanding of his solution back in the days, probably back in 2010. Sean and I visited in Toronto a couple clients together and stuff, and for me it was just observing how he interacted with the business community, and did he actually understand the mentoring process and all of that? And the short answer to that is yes. So with his software solution, the part that I have found that's really important, and it's his and it could be others as well, was the capability to create that online profile and to do the online matching. Because if you do, I did a lot of research around that, and what they typically, the research has said is anywhere from 50 matches and upwards, that it will become labor intensive for it to be done manually. And so the research said that they recommended that then you start to explore technology solutions that would be able to do some of that for you. So in going through when we bring somebody on to be part of the international mentoring community and being able to speak to the benefits of software in the mentoring space, some of the things that we'll be looking for them to talk about will be, the ability for the software to be programmed in order to do online profiles, and for the software to actually do online matching. And the reason why the online matching is so important is, in the research that I did, it was recommended that for 50 matches or 50 pairs and upwards, that you probably wanted to look at a software solution to be able to facilitate that process. That it was very labor intensive to try and do the matching from a manual perspective. I've done it. I've done 55 or 60 matches, and it took a long time to go through. And this way here, it's a lot faster. The other thing that I think we want to be able to look at from the technology side of the house is, what are the tools that are available through the software, such as a mentoring agreement, mentoring log, and stuff like that, to help just facilitate that whole mentoring process and make it a whole lot easier. And then the other part that I always look for is that if I'm going to jump on a mentoring platform, I'm going to be looking, what is the mentoring community that is supported by that platform? So to be able to connect, if I'm having a mentoring dilemma and I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with something, is who can I reach out to within that community to be able to, confidentially get some responses or answers to my question. So those will be, certainly some of the things that, as we go through and we get to the point of bringing on sort of a technology expert, for lack of a better choice of words, we'll be able to explore these a whole lot deeper.
I remember a story years ago about technology, and it was about the space and the use of pens in space. And the challenge is pens don't usually work very well when you're writing upside down in space, right? The kind of idea. And so they designed a pen that would be able to do that. And then someone piped up and says, yeah, okay, but why didn't you just use a pencil? And so I always remember this from the technology point of view, is that just because there's technology doesn't mean that it necessarily actually has to be as part of the arrangement. It doesn't have to be necessarily. That's why a good old cup of coffee, right, in a place where you can, be as confidential as possible, or recognize you won't talk about anything confidential, can be just as great as, jumping onto a Zoom meeting and using the technology to do that, right? So sometimes we can get caught thinking that technology is going to be the solution, when in fact it can actually put some barriers or blocks in the way. And that's why we want to really have a good look at this story of technology. So I look forward to who we bring on, what we get to talk about in this area, Doug. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's great. Now, one of the other things that is popping up in the news quite a bit that is linked to mentoring, and Doug knows about this because, again, he's been doing some research. I just want you to mention about this notion of turnover retention, because I think that what would be really great is maybe on the next show is let's dive into this one. Let's go a little bit deeper, richer into this conversation, because this has a wide impact on businesses everywhere in the world. And I think it deserves a little bit more than a 1-minute news update that pops into the Mentoring 37. So, but right now, let's just give them a quick share, and then we'll deal with it next time. So, Doug, thoughts?
So there every year there's a global leadership forecast that's done by 3 different organizations together, and I'll get into that a little bit deeper for the next show. But they identify typically the top 10 challenges that are facing organizations, and for the last 3 years. And the respondents to the survey, it's about 64% said that developing the next generation leaders is a challenge for them going forward. That's one. And then the other was the aspect of the high turnover rates. And I know that I believe Canada is ranked 4th for high turnover rates. And just slightly ahead, I think the United States is 5th. So Canada's sitting at 4th, and we need to ask ourselves, with those high turnover rates, what are the reasons why organizations have such a high turnover rate? And the message, I know I've done a blog article on it myself, the message is that you need to plug mentoring in sooner than later, and it needs to be plugged in where in the leadership development program that you have. And even I've actually came across a couple pieces the other day too, where it said that the succession planning, or actually the succession development process, which also can help refortify or help reduce the turnover rate, that mentoring is not a part of any of that discussion yet either. And so we have our work cut out for us.
Well, Doug and I have had conversations. We'd like to actually get to a point where what we're doing is talking about facilitative mentoring. And to be able to truly bring this notion of how do you facilitation, and linking it to the mentoring, all right, and how to mentor, because I believe that there's something there. And again, we'll dive into that a little bit more as we move forward. So as we close out this show, one of the things that we always like to do is announce the next one, and it's on March the 19th at 10 a.m. Mountain. You can join us, and if you would like to actually be on the show and be part of the gallery for it, we have space for about 95 people, and you can certainly jump in and join us. And if we know that there's people there, we'll actually maybe ask if you got a question, and we'll deal with it right there and then. We'll just do live question and answer. So the other thing is that we're going to start increasing more of our launch going further afield. So if you know of adult related, because we're mainly dealing with the adult related mentoring at the moment, and then we'll look in ways in which we can help the youth related mentoring. If you know of adult related mentoring programs, are people who are running really great programs, and you want to suggest that maybe we talk to them, love to. Or if you're listening and you hear it and you want us to have a chat with you, we'd love to do that. If there's some really fantastic mentoring in the workplace programs, again, let us know. we'd certainly would reach out to people and have conversations with them, because it's about all things mentoring and mentoring around the world. That's what Mentoring37 INC is about. So just before I ask Doug to close us off and certainly share some words of wisdom about the gift of mentoring, I'd like to just acknowledge that next time our action point that we're going to look at is manage collaborative conversations to support the mentoring arrangement. So it'll tie into the definition. So there'll be a lot about collaboration in the next one, and we might even have a guest. I'll see if I can find someone who does a lot of work in collaboration and see if he wants to pop on and join us, Doug. So I'm going to talk to him and see if that happens. If not, we'll certainly share what we know. So Doug, you get to take us out and share some message about the gift of mentoring.
Well, the gift of mentoring is truly a gift. And so I encourage everybody that's listening today to make every minute a mentoring minute.